Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israeli leaders calling for annexing parts of the West Bank in the biblical lands of Judea and Samaria after the United Nations votes overwhelmingly in favor of the creation of a Palestinian state over objections of the United States and Israel. And today, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Israel, meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu following last week's Israeli strike on Qatar. We're going to hear what he had to say. The suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk is not talking. We're going to share with you what we've learned so far. And his widow is speaking out, and thousands turn out to honor his legacy at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. And it is now the #2 nation in the world behind the United States for sending out missionaries, Brazil. We're going to bring you a look at the unique way they are spreading the gospel. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We're going to begin this Monday, September 15th in Israel, where some leaders are calling for the government to declare sovereignty over the biblical lands of Judea and Samaria. At the United Nations General Assembly voted overwhelmingly to support a Palestinian state. And today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met today with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after last week's Israeli strike on Qatar. CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us the story. He's reporting from Jerusalem.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio began his trip with a visit to the Western Wall. Even after last week's strike on Hamas leaders in Qatar, a U.S. ally, Netanyahu said the U.S.-Israel relationship is strong. Netanyahu and Rubio met to discuss a number of issues, including the war in Gaza, freedom for the hostages, and the strike against Hamas leaders in Doha.
Your presence here in Israel today is a clear message that America stands with Israel. You stand with us in the face of terror, in the face of the incredible, I would almost say, Middle Ages lies that are directed against us.
As far as the President's been clear on the ongoing issues in Gaza, and that is that every single hostage, both living and deceased, needs to be home immediately. Hamas can no longer continue to exist as an armed element that threatens the peace and security, not just of Israel, but of the world.
In New York City Friday, the UN General Assembly voted 142 to 10 with 12 abstentions to pass a resolution declaring a Palestinian state. Israel's UN Ambassador Danny Danon condemned the resolution.
This one-sided declaration will not be remembered as a step toward peace, only as another hollow gesture that weakens this Assembly's credibility. This is not diplomacy. It is theater. It doesn't shorten the war, it prolongs it. It does not weaken Hamas, it rewards them. It does not advance negotiations, it undermines them.
The Trump administration called the vote a gift for Hamas, and after the UN vote, a number of Israeli ministers called for annexation. Israeli Justice Minister Yariv Levin called the UN decision a reward for terrorism and added the land of Israel belongs to the people of Israel. Even the UN decision will not change that. It is time to apply sovereignty to Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley. This is the appropriate Zionist response.
Going to continue our coverage now with Chris Mitchell joining us from Jerusalem. So, Chris, what is the practical impact of the UN resolution on a Palestinian state? Is this just diplomatic language, or will it actually lead to something?
Well, you can argue, Ephraim, that what Ambassador Danny Danon said, that it was more theater than actually reality, is really true. This has been done before with many other resolutions about a Palestinian state. I think in terms of it really does have a lot of essence of just diplomatic language. In terms of actually making progress to a Palestinian state, it seems very unlikely. And because many people here in Israel do not want a Palestinian state, especially after October 7th. Hamas is a non-starter, not even considered that they would be part of any sort of Palestinian state. And also the Palestinian Authority. If you look at what they say in their official media, they call for many times the elimination of the state of Israel as well. They call for Jews to be killed or murdered based in Allah's name. So whether or not this resolution by the General Assembly, which really is non-binding. It really doesn't have any, teeth to it. Really does seem a lot more like theater than actually something that will change things here on the ground in Israel.
If Israel does annex parts of Judea and Samaria, will that prevent the creation of a Palestinian state?
I think actually there's been moves by Israel that would actually prevent a Palestinian state. One was it was a non-binding resolution, but it gives a sense of how the current Knesset is feeling. They voted that they would never be a Palestinian state. Also, we reported last week about E1, which is an area outside of Jerusalem, and they have decided, Israel that is, to put about 70,000 residents there in an area that would prevent a contiguous Palestinian state that actually geographically breaks up between Ramallah and Bethlehem. Now, this land had been vacant for a long time, but it's just this push for a Palestinian state that's really pushing Israel to take steps to prevent a Palestinian state. So I don't think there's a... So this is things that are happening on the ground here. This push for a Palestinian state is increasing this effort to declare sovereignty of Judea, Samaria, and the Jordan Valley.
Even though Qatar is an ally of the United States, it seems as though Israel's strike on it did not damage the relationship between the two countries. What is the view there in Israel?
Well, it seems like, President Trump seems to have said that he was unhappy with that strike in Doha against these Hamas leaders. There was that carefully constructed statement by Carolyn Levitt last week about the attack, where he said it was unfortunate that it was in Doha, but on the other hand, they wanted to make sure that there was a good thing that they tried to eliminate these Hamas leaders responsible for the October 7th massacre. So it seems like the White House wants to maintain a healthy relationship with Qatar. There are people here, and I think in the United States as well, around the world, that really see Qatar as not only the arsonist, but also the fireman. They play two sides of the same coin. They support terror. They've supported Hamas for decades, and yet, on the other hand, they want to court favor with Western countries, especially the United States.
What more have we learned about the Israeli strike on Qatar?
Well, we found out that actually it might have been a very dramatic episode where it appears that the Mossad was tracking these leaders based on their cell phones. And this is what Channel 12 reporter Amit Segal is reporting, that they tracked the cell phones. The cell phones were in a room where they met. They left to go for prayer, and then the strike happened, and apparently that might have saved many of these top Hamas leaders from being eliminated. Kind of a dramatic escalation there, or dramatic unfolding there that really kind of saved those leaders. We haven't seen many of them in public, but it remains to be seen if maybe they had been wounded or injured in those attacks as well.
What more can you tell us about Israel's war on Hamas in Gaza?
Well, dramatic things happening right now, Ephraim. They have been eliminating these high-rise towers inside Gaza right now, and you can see that almost every day, eliminating by now dozens of these high-rise towers. Why? Because Hamas is using them as command centers, as sniper positions, as places to go ahead and ambush Israeli troops. And they really haven't gone in a major way, it seems. They want to make sure that they're eliminating as much as they can of Hamas's infrastructure before they actually go in a major way on the ground. The other thing they're doing, Ephraim, is they're trying to get as many Gazans out of Gaza City, out of harm's way, and not to be used by Hamas as human shields. We understand now maybe 350,000 have evacuated. That's about out of maybe 900,000 to 1 million. So many still remaining, but many are leaving. And in the meantime, they're preparing for this major push on the ground to eliminate Hamas's last major stronghold in Gaza City.
All right, our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insights. Already shaping up to be a busy week. Look forward to checking back in with you in the days ahead this week. Coming up here at home, the ongoing investigation into the assassination of the conservative Christian activist Charlie Kirk. What we're learning about the suspect, and a capacity crowd honors Kirk's legacy at the Kennedy Center. This happened last night. We're going to bring you that story when we come back. The suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk is not talking, but Tyler Robertson's family is telling investigators he'd been radicalized into leftist politics. Meanwhile, thousands united at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. last night to pay tribute to Kirk's mission and his life. Del Hurt is on this story.
Utah Governor Spencer Cox says investigators are not ready to discuss a motive in the killing of conservative activist and Christian Charlie Kirk, in part because the suspect, Tyler Robinson, is not being cooperative with investigators. Cox told CNN that Robinson's family says he'd been indoctrinated into a leftist ideology. He also confirmed reports that his roommate is cooperating, but knew nothing of the attack.
His roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. He is cooperating with authorities.
A capacity crowd filled the Kennedy Center Sunday night to honor Charlie Kirk. CBN News reporter Michelle London was there.
So many young people and students filling this room here at the Kennedy Center tonight to celebrate and pay tribute to a man they're calling a fearless defender of truth and a faithful man of God. There also was a call to action for all of us to continue walking boldly in our faith in Jesus Christ, carrying out Charlie's legacy, not to be overcome by evil, but overcoming evil with good.
The national debate over how this happened and what needs to be done continues, with many opinions. University of Chicago professor Robert Pape warns America is in the grip of a new violent populism, but more so on the left.
39% of Democrats say they agree that the use of force is justified to remove Donald Trump from the presidency. 55% are talking about assassinations. We found 24% of Republicans agree that Donald Trump is justified in using the U.S. military to suppress Democratic protesters.
Republican Senator James Langford blames the internet.
Social media is always pushing who's the angriest, who's the loudest, who says the craziest thing. That's what gets repeated over and over and over again.
South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham said the attack targeted a political movement.
This is not for me, they all do it. This is unique and different. This is an attack on a movement by using violence. And that's the way most Republicans see this.
In her first statement since her husband's murder, Erika Kirk said Charlie's mission will now be more powerful than ever before.
You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Still ahead, it's now the #2 nation in bringing the gospel to the world. Brazil sends almost 40,000 missionaries a year to Asia, Africa, and the Middle East and beyond. We're going to show you how this global movement is redefining missions. We've got this story. It's coming up right after this. Brazil is second only to the United States in sending missionaries into the world, and its approach is far from typical. Brazilian missionaries use everyday jobs and personal connection to carry their faith across borders. CBN's George Thomas shows us how this global movement is redefining what it means to serve on the mission field.
While Brazil is certainly famous for soccer, samba, and the Amazon, it's also becoming known for something else: sending missionaries. From bustling Sao Paulo to small villages half a world away, Brazilians are being called to spread the message of Jesus Christ. They include 45-year-old Daniel Silva from the city of Belo Horizonte.
I've known about missions since 2005, but I decided to answer this call in 2014.
Instead of preaching from a pulpit, Sylvia serves coffee. She opens small cafes in the Middle East and Asia, places traditionally missionaries aren't often welcome.
In addition to generating income for that nation and generating local jobs, I can build relationships with people, right? With each person who enters, in my case, a coffee shop, it's an opportunity to make friends, to strengthen relationships, and over time, share the love of Christ with others.
Silva has faced plenty of barriers such as new languages, strange foods, and unique cultures.
In the beginning, I had a lot of difficulty communicating. I didn't know the language. The food was another shock. It was very spicy compared to what I'm used to in Brazil. I also traveled to very remote areas where there were no roads and the conditions were so tough.
What's this? This is South Africa, Zulu, Sutus, Xhosa, Tswana, Shangani, 30 years ago. And I was young.
That was you as a missionary?
Yes, I was young. Look how the Brazilian can connect. I was the only white in the middle of this great crowd in the time of apartheid when whites and blacks couldn't talk to each other. It was forbidden by law.
Do you miss being a missionary?
I would love to go back there.
Marcelo Crivella, a well-known evangelical pastor turned politician, once served in several African nations. He says Brazil's warmth, hospitality, and cultural diversity helps his missionaries connect across borders like never before.
Here in Brazil, we are not reds, we are not whites, we are not yellow, we are not black. We are Brazilians. We are a mix of everything. Then we can go and be accepted in all this country.
Each year, roughly 400,000 missionaries are deployed around the world. The United States is the #1 mission-sending country, deploying roughly about 127,000 missionaries. Brazil comes in at #2. Each year, about 38,000 Brazilians travel around the world.
Dr. Todd Johnson, a leading religion researcher at Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, says Brazilians have a deep understanding of God's command to go into all the world and make disciples.
Brazilians have done a wide range of things from planting churches to doing aid work of various kinds in some of the toughest places in the world. And it's really a story that probably is not known by most people.
And they're also changing how missions are done.
Brazilian churches want to grow and expand to other nations, so they realize that the traditional way of doing missions needs to be challenged and reshaped.
Breno Vietas spent 13 years serving in Mozambique and Spain. He says the old model of raising support can be tough, especially on families.
I remember being so concerned about raising funds as a missionary. We had so little. And what little we had, we shared with the Mozambican missionaries.
Now he is leading a national push for churches here to encourage missionaries to work regular jobs while also serving in ministry. The goal? Make missions smarter, more sustainable, and more effective.
I've returned to Brazil now from the field to mobilize our churches for this new vision.
No, Europe is not dead. We're just getting started.
Rebecca Teixeira is part of this new generation. With the Brazilian Foursquare Church, her family has planted congregations in Portugal for years. Now she travels across the continent, encouraging young believers to reclaim Europe for Jesus.
My heart is to empower and encourage these young leaders. If it's in Portugal, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, I don't care. A place is just a possibility to see the action of God. This is what South Americans, they really think of. Legacy, enduring, lasting legacy throughout families and generations.
In 2000, Brazil made history when 140,000 young people packed 3 stadiums for The Send, a 12-hour rally to mobilize new wave of missionaries. Nearly 2 million more joined online. One of the most powerful moments came as tens of thousands of Brazilians lifted their shoes in the air as a symbolic pledge to take the gospel to the nations.
Missions is done in the following way. It is with the hands of the ones that give, the knees of the ones that pray, and with the feet of the ones that go.
from coffee shops in Asia to churches across Europe. This new wave of Brazilian missionaries being trained to work bivocationally is blazing a path not just about passion, but about sustainability as they carry Christ to the nations. George Thomas, CBN News, Sao Paulo, Brazil.
And stay with us, coming back with an encouraging word for your Monday. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. It's time now for your Monday motivation. Today, I leave you with this thought as we begin this week together. Spend time in God's presence. You want to not just know His hand, you want and need to know His heart. With that word, make this a marvelous Monday and be sure to have yourself a wonderful rest of the week. Do it on purpose and with purpose. Well, that is going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there anytime. You can also find them online. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment and let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can do that by emailing us. That email address is newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Of course, that's formerly known as Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. Make it a marvelous Monday. Come right back here tomorrow. We'll see you same time and same place. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching, and God bless.